Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Thursday, August the 21st, 2025. And how did your night go last night? If you watched the fights, that is. I'll get to that in a second. I just need to take a real deep breath first. And what a morning to take a deep breath, by the way. Look, I know I say this most mornings, but look at behind me there. Absolutely beautiful. You probably can't see the mountain over there, but absolutely beautiful. Let's get into on this day first. I'll go through it quickly because we've got a little bit to talk about in today's episode. I'll just make sure Neil here doesn't go astray. All right, let's go back to 1973. Heavyweight champion Bob Foster defended the light heavyweight championship for a record 11th time it wasn't in South Africa. He beat South African Pierre Fourie by unanimous decision over 15 rounds. In 1985, Lightning Lonnie Smith, I remember this fight, took the WBC super lightweight title from Billy Costello, who was one of the pound-for-pound fighters of the day. And it was a big upset at the time, I remember, and stopped him in the 8th round. In 1987, Julio Cesar Chavez dominated Danilo Cabrera to defend his world featherweight. Wouldn't have been a featherweight title, would have been super featherweight. I've got featherweight here, never fought at featherweight. 9th time, unanimous decision over 12 rounds. 1981. What a fight this was. Salvador Sanchez, the great Mexican champion, knocked out Puerto Rican legend Wilfredo Gomez in the 8th round to defend the WBC super bantamweight title, no, it was the WBC featherweight title, 126. Apologies about that. Gomez was the 122-pound champion at the time. And in 1999, when Australian boxing was great, Costazu defeated Miguel Angel Gonzalez in 10 rounds. That was for the WBC 140-pound title. That fight took place in Miami, Florida. And that's what happened on this day. I think that was it. Actually, one more thing. Errol Spence knocked out Leonard Bundu in the 6th round. In an IBF welterweight eliminator. That fight took place in Brooklyn, New York. Now, a little bit of a side note of that particular fight. Yours truly actually fought Leonard Bundu at the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary, back in 1997. So there you go. And I didn't actually realise it was him until years later that someone actually pointed out that, isn't that the guy that you fought? I got no idea, so I had to go back to, I knew he was an Italian that I fought, but I had no idea it was Leonard Bundu, and someone said, well, that's the guy you fought. And I said, yes, good point. Went back to the record books, and he was right. So anyway, that was on this day, Errol Spence Jr. and Leonard Bundu. All right, now I'm sure everyone's tuning in to today's episode to hear the thoughts on the fights last night. I mean, what do you say? Look, as most people know, I've actually been a pretty staunch defender of No Limit over the journey with the costs of their pay-per-views, the fight shows they're putting on. I know there's been a little bit of criticism in there, but overall I think they've done a really good job, and as I said, I've defended them numerous times. But how do I defend last night's show? It was putrid, and that's being kind. It really was putrid. And probably for the first time, I would say, if I was in No Limit shoes, I'd be laying low today and maybe not looking at social media and everything else, because it was to put your hand out for $70 for that show, or $60, whatever it was. Just think of me, I paid $750 for it to put it on at the pub, and we actually surprisingly had a pretty good crowd. I think we almost covered the cost of the fight, almost. Don't worry about the staff and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's a different story. It was a cold Wednesday night. I still don't know why they do them on Wednesday nights. But anyway, people have got to get up in the morning, and they want pubs and that to buy the fights, and they put them on at all hours on a Wednesday night in the middle of winter. But But that card last night, look, sometimes this happens where you actually get a pretty well-matched card and things just go to shit and you get early knockouts. Things happen that you don't really count on, and you put the fights together in good faith and it just happens. I remember I had a nightmare show back in 2019. We had Jade Mitchell fighting Kashtanov, the Russian, and the undercard just fell to bits. We had to rush together, we had pull-outs and we had to rush it together. We had numerous first-round knockouts, and it was one of those instances where I was in the change rooms just wanting the night to be over. But then we had the main event of Jade Mitchell and Kashtanov, and it was a brawl. It was a war, and it saved the show, and everyone went home happy, and it was great. I'm not sure we could say that about last night's show. The whole event from top to bottom was woeful. Just excuse me there while I take this out of my ear. I always tend to do it. My Apple, what are they, AirPods or whatever they are. But this show from the start was, well, it was horrible. The matchmaking of this card, and they've had plenty of time to put it together. They should be embarrassed today with what they put on. I didn't watch the whole card. I only watched the main card. I had to do a few things, and I had to go to the pub and actually work, and there was a bit going on and everything. So I only watched the main card from Jazzy Parr onwards. So I can't really comment. I'll give you the results anyway, just quickly before we go into that main card. Blair Girardi stopped Naki Saguba. What round was that? Third round, we had Ashley Heel defeated Shannon Rose by decision. Brandon Garash beat Benson Pago. Is that how you pronounce it? Pago, by first round knockout. I'm going to have to watch this one because apparently it wasn't too bad a fight. Isaias Setti, don't mind Isaias Setti. I think the young guy can fight. Moved to 3-3-1 with a decision win over Jacob Clenshaw, or was it? Yeah, it was over Jacob Clenshaw. Yep, who goes to 5-1-1. I think that was the case, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Then into the main card. All right, so... But yes, watching from the first fight, I was surprised the Singapore girl actually put up a good fight against Jazzy Parr. It was stopped in the last, 15, 20 seconds, whatever it was. I know there was a little bit of pushback on social media about it. Why didn't they let it go? Look, I thought it was not a bad stoppage. I thought, look, when a fighter is just not punching back, you've got really no choice. You just have to stop it. And regardless of where it is in the fight, the referees are told, well, and just ask Richard Steele about this with Julio Chavez and Meldrick Taylor, you've got to stop the fight. So I felt for the young girl. Her name was Efasha Kamarudin. And yeah, I did feel for her, but I think they did the right job. Jasmine Parr improves to 7-1. Kamarudin, improves to 8-1. Kamarudin drops to 8-1-1. So, as I said, I felt for her. Look, she performed a lot better than what I thought she might. I was a little bit worried. I think I said in the preview yesterday that it's hard to get a gauge of what she was actually like because she looked okay technically, but the girls that she was in there beating were just totally mismatched. So I was pleasantly surprised. At least she put up a pretty good performance and gave Jazzy Parr some rounds. But Jazzy Parr, if she's serious about going anywhere in boxing, she's got to step it up. And I know I've been pretty vocal about she should be giving Shannon O'Connell a rematch. I don't think it should be giving her a rematch considering Shannon beat her in the fight. But anyway, but good on her. She got the win. She did what she had to do. Then we went into Ahmed Reda and Bruno Trimo. I've got to say to those guys, thank you for at least attempting to save the show. Now, I got this one wrong. I did say yesterday that I thought that Bruno Trimo would be too experienced and strong for Ahmed Reda. Forgot also the fact that he's probably a super bantamweight coming up to lightweight. But anyway, he's still a tough, not young, he's a tough guy, experienced guy. And I thought over 10 rounds, he might just be a bit too experienced for Reda. But full credit to Ahmed Reda. His stock sort of went up a little bit in my books. I thought he handled the pressure really well, handled the 10 rounds really well. More importantly, that was my main probably point of interest in the fight and why I went for Torimo, but I thought Ahmed Redder, well, he did probably have his moments. He maybe struggling a little bit with the pace. I thought he got his second, third, fourth wins pretty quickly, and I thought he did enough to earn a really good decision, well-earned decision. So not sure they've got the scorecards on here. They don't on BoxRec, but he moved to 7-0. Bruno Torimo drops to 29, 5-2. But a very, very good performance from Ahmed Redder. And I won't say that I'll probably change my view as far as where he goes with fighting someone like a Harry Garside. I still think Harry Garside's style will be far too much for Ahmed Redder. But hey, full credit to the kid. Stepped up, took the fight with a very experienced guy and delivered. So, yeah, very, very good performance from Ahmed Redder. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him. And not just the fact that he can fight. He's got that personality, hasn't he? He's got the quirky little attitude and... yeah, he's got a bit of spunk about him, hasn't he? So I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him. Brock Jarvis and Sam Beck. Now, this ended in the 4th round. Brock Jarvis moves to 23-2. Sam Beck dropped to 7-1. Look, on the surface, it looks good that Brock Jarvis got the knockout. But if I'm being really honest about it, I'm worried about where Brock's at. I really am. I thought it was a really poor performance. I thought Sam Beck was winning the fight. I was saying to the couple of guys beside me, I thought he's going to win this fight. He's going to beat Brock Jarvis. He looked terrible, Brock Jarvis, and I don't like to say that because I'm a fan. Always have been of Brock Jarvis, but you can tell by the fact, well, having moved up to middleweight, it's just not his division. The problem is, I don't think he can go anywhere because he's put on all that size now. I'm not sure he can go down, but all the advantages that he had at sort of super bantam up to sort of lightweight are gone. He's lost his size advantage. He's lost his strength, his power, his work rate. Now he's just getting tagged. I mean, with all due respect to Sam Beck, who's a good, durable fighter, looks like he's well trained, good management, all that behind him. He was pretty much brought in as the opponent, and well, I'm assuming he was just a good, honest, domestic level fighter with Sam Beck. Brock Jarvis should be winning that fight comfortably. I know he knocked him out in the end, but up until that point, he really struggled, really battled. And as I said, I thought Sam Beck was winning the fight. What ended in the 4th round, I thought Sam Beck had won at least 2 of the first 3, if not all 3 of the first 3. I thought that Brock really struggled moving. He struggled punching. He looked slow. He looked, more importantly, which worries me the most, is that he was getting tagged consistently and just does not know how to move his head. And when he's getting hit now, you can just see that it's sort of shaking him to his boots sometimes, you know, or down to his heels. And that's the worry. At middleweight, we saw what Keith Thurman did to him, who was pretty much a light punching welterweight, an elite light punching welterweight, having said that, but still. And look what he did to Brock, and we've seen him rocked and knocked out in the past. I don't like what I'm seeing, and I know some of you might agree or disagree, whatever it might be, but that wasn't a great performance from Brock last night, and I sort of do worry about his welfare going forward if he continues to fight that way. And I know he's back with Jeff, which is great, and I know Jeff would identify a lot of those things, but can he execute it in the ring? I just don't know. And from what I saw last night against, look, again, with all due respect to Sam Beck, a pretty basic Aussie level fighter with only 7 fights experience. I don't think he'd been very active either, by the way, Sam Beck, but he had some success and really rocked Brock. He was tagging him consistently and just outboxing him in general. So I thought he really struggled. I know he was pretty excited about things after the fight, but I don't know. And I know it won't happen, but I must admit, if I was in Jeff's position, I might even get to the point where I'd sit Brock down and say, Brock, is this really what you want? Because I'm speaking through Jeff's eyes here. If I was him, Jeff's seen it all at world level. He's seen how hard it is and how brutal it is. I know Brock has to some extent now, fighting the likes of Thurman and Liam Paro. But I'd be having the conversation of Brock, is this really what you want? Because I can see a pretty dark future. And I don't like to say it because, again, I'm a fan of Brock and he's a great young guy, but I worry about what might happen to him in fights going forward. So especially if he's going to fight the likes of Nikita, or I don't think he fights Michael Zarafa, but with Nikita. So anyway, it's his own. He's his own man. He can do what he wants. But I worried about that performance last night. And then we get to the two main fights. Well, this will probably take me about 30 seconds to describe the fights. It was disgraceful. Mikey Dahlman in with Michael Zarafa was probably the worst bit of matchmaking I've seen, well, definitely on a no limit card, ever. Well, maybe that Thai girl they put in with Jazzy Parr would probably be up there, but this is a co-main event of a guy they're supposedly trying to get behind and get him up. Well, he's already in the rankings, but get him further up the rankings to get him a title shot or make, the interest in in one of the Zoo fights. And look, with the amount of time they had to put this fight together and the amount of contacts that No Limit have, to put this guy up as an opponent for Michael Zarafa or anyone on this card. I mean, I think Sam Beck would have knocked out Mikey Dahlman in the first or second round as well. That's what I think of him. Disgraceful matchmaking. Now, Michael did exactly what he should do in that situation and obliterated him in about, 2 minutes. I know there was the little knockdown there. It was a knockdown. I think we all agree on that. He was just off balance and wasn't very happy about it either, was it, Aussie Michael? And Les Fear probably should be looking at that today and reviewing that and thinking and I think he did admit he didn't see it. My argument with that, or what happens if it was a very, very even fight and he's called it a knockdown and it's cost Michael Zarafa the fight and he didn't even see what had happened. So anyway, I don't know how all that works, but whether they've got access to video replays or something, I don't know. But the decision to put Mikey Dahlman in with someone like Michael Zarafa, a world-rated fighter, is disgraceful. It was a shocking bit of matchmaking. Now, I watched Mikey Dahlman for about 30 seconds when this fight was announced, and that's all I needed to know that this fight was not going to last long. I think I did say 3 or 4 rounds yesterday. Well, how wrong was I? But surely the people that watched the tapes of him, look, unless they wanted to look at the fight and go, well, geez, if we want to make Michael look good, this is going to do it. He's got this highlight reel knockout on TMZ. He's only had the one loss in his career. He looks the part. He's an American. We'll be able to spin this. It'll make him look great. We're looking to build up Nikita. That is the only reason I could see to match him with Michael Zarafa. This guy was not, I don't think, at a stage to fight for a Victorian state title, let alone be in there with Michael Zarafa. And again, this is nothing on Michael Zarafa. He fights who he gets told to fight. And he just would have went, yeah, whatever, line him up, I'm ready to go. But surely the spotlight needs to be put on No Limits matchmaking in this respect. It's not like he was a late replacement. It's not like he was a late call-up. It's not like the fight was put together in 2 weeks. They've had plenty of time to get this guy in. And No Limit should absolutely be ashamed of themselves for putting this guy up. And I know it looked great. I know we blew him out of there, and everyone was in the arena who didn't know any better were all high-fiving, and everyone was on social media. Well, the people that don't really know about boxing and the casual fans were all saying, geez, how good is this guy? And geez, Michael Zarafa, he's going to be a handful for Tim or Nikita if he fights him, whatever. Look, I'm 52 years of age. I reckon I could have come out of retirement last night and knocked him out in 2 rounds as well. I know I was pumping myself up, but I'm serious. That's how bad I think he was. It was disgraceful. And I think Michael was a little bit embarrassed about it after the fight as well. So not cool by No Limit. And then if you thought that was bad, then you get Lulzim Ismaili in with Nikita Zoo. Now, again, this is not Nikita's fault. I thought leading up to, I think I picked him by about 5th round knockout. I did say as soon as he slows down a touch and stops running, that Nikita will stop him the very round he stops. Well, the thing is, he stood towards Nikita in the first round and it was all over. Now, I know it was apparently a body shot or whatever it was, but he did exactly the same thing last night as what he did in his last fight. That's not on his record, by the way, because it's one of those IBA fights that's not sanctioned or not recognised. And he did the same thing. He got hit with a body shot and spun around and quit in the corner. Now, he tried to do that last night. You could see that. He got, although this was a headshot, I think it was this time, whatever it was, but he did a spin around again. Now, I don't know whether the referee's supposed to step in. Normally in the amateurs, or a lot of time in the pros, if you turn your back, they'll sort of stop and at least warn you for turning your back. So obviously in the pros, it's a little bit different. They just let him fight. Now, he literally had his back turned to Nikita, who just kept punching. Now, he made it to the bell, but as soon as he sat down, and the doctor came over. I said to the guys beside me, I said, this fight's over. And they went, no, it can't be over. It's only gone one round. And sure enough, he waved it off. He quit. He quit. You know, we talk sometimes about retiring compared to quitting. Well, last night he quit. And again, that's not Nikita's fault because he turned up to fight in good condition, in good faith that they got him the right opponent. He did what he had to do. But again, the fact that they've got that guy in there with Nikita Tszyu, knowing that he's got a bit of a history of quitting. Look, maybe this is what they wanted. They wanted this type of stoppage. I don't know. But, and I know, look, I suppose I've got to maybe don't be as hard as I would like to be because end of the day, it was one round and he decided to quit. It's not like No Limit said you're going to quit. He quit himself, so I get it. But just he took the easy way out. He took the easy way out. The doctor said, do you want to continue? And he's like, yeah, no, I think I'll take the money and go home. But either way, doesn't matter what happened in there and whatever. The choice of him as an opponent and the card as a whole, I'll say it again, embarrassing, pathetic, disgraceful. It's the only way to describe it. And all you people out there today that I'm sure I haven't checked this morning, it's still quite early, but I will today, check social media. I would be just totally understanding if people out there are just raging at the moment about being asked to put up $70. And a lot of them, quite rightly so, supporting Australian boxing. And I get messages about this often. You know, it's not really the card. I'm supporting Aussie boxing. Yeah, the card might not be overly great, but I'm supporting Aussie boxing, which is exactly what I do. If I had to put it on at the pub last night, I would have had it at home, knowing what was going to happen, but I would have done it anyway because I know the way the industry works. I know they need these pay-per-views to keep these events going. But geez, I tell you what, they really tested my faith last night. They really did. To the point where if I was out there, I'd be filthy if I was the average fight fan out there who'd paid the $70 in good faith. And I would very, very mindfully be careful of putting up the $70 next time and almost make a stand and say, No Limit, if this is what you're going to dish up to us, stick it up your ass. We're going to save our $70 and take the missus out for dinner or something. That's how bad it was. Now, as I said at the start, I've always been pretty defensive of No Limit because I know the way the promotional industry works. I know it all costs money and everything else. But these guys have been handed the keys to the Ferrari. I've said this numerous times. And this is the best you can come up with. These guys have literally got Australian boxing in their hands. They have the ability to pretty much match anyone up against anyone. I know there's certain fighters that are aligned to different promoters, and I get that. But most of the time, they will work in with Tasman fighters if they're not signed with Tasman, and they want the guys on the card or the big cards. They want them in with the big fights. They want the exposure. So they could literally pretty much make genuine 50-50 fights every single show. And this is the best they can come up with. Mismatch after mismatch after mismatch. Just pathetic. Now, last night, they could have easily put, I said before, Jazzy Parr in with Shannon O'Connell, there's one fight. Or put her in with someone else. Another Aussie, I'm sure there's some good ones out there. They could have easily put, well, I don't know, geez, if they had to put Brock in with anyone else, he probably would have gotten beaten. So that was probably a safe bet on their behalf. But surely, as I said before, with Mikey Dolman and losing whatever his name is, Ismaili, they could have found better guys than that to at least give us some rounds, some proven fighters that they know are going to stand up, especially as a Zerafa. I still cannot get my head around they chose this guy for Michael Zerafa. And again, not Michael's fault, but how they could choose Mikey Dolman, who I looked at for 30 seconds and went, oh my God, this guy's going to get obliterated. And they could knowingly put him in there with Michael Zerafa, put him on a poster, pump him up, it's probably the doing there what a lot of people have actually accused them of, and that's taking Aussie boxing fans for a ride. Not good by No Limit. Now, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm sure you guys will all have your say and your vent on their social media page and all that sort of stuff. But I think, look, the only way to fix it, I don't like to say this because I like to support the Aussie boxing, is don't buy the shows. But that sort of goes against what I'm always on about supporting Aussie boxing. But I don't know what else to do except to say, well, next time you can stick your $70 up your ass. I don't care who's on it. We're not going to pay for it. that's probably might be the immature way to get around it. But geez, I don't know. I'm struggling to defend last night. I've had numerous messages and phone calls and everything about it. I have nothing more to say except I agree with all the criticism coming No Limit's way, and they're going to have to deal with it. Now, I'm sure George Rose will put on the Don King wig and spin it a certain way, and he'll get on the next show and say, well, you know, this show is going to be better than the last. What is the next one? Is it the Liam Paro show, isn't it? Is that next month? I think it is, September, or is that that's October, I can't remember. I think they got a Melbourne one in there as well, whatever. But either way, I don't care about those shows. Last night's show was an embarrassment, and I hope No Limit come out and apologise to everyone that bought the card last night, because it was not good. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, I've had my say. Give me your thoughts. I'm not even going to bother commenting on supposedly Jake Paul fighting Gervonta Tank Davis in November either. I might leave that till I'm a little bit calmer. But I read that this morning. I was like, geez, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. I've had the shocking night, like all you boxing fans out there, and I've got to wake up to Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. What do they say in Seinfeld? Serenity now. That's the way I feel today. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there feeling the same way. But as always, put your comments down there. Love to hear them. Give me your thoughts, and try and have a great day. We'll catch you tomorrow.